how can I experience the Sabbath, the light of God, which you say is a different experience from the light of God that we can receive when we are working. You say there's a light of God which we can experience when we work, and another light of God which we have to be a vessel for. And what I want to know is how do we, what is that? What is the difference between work and non-work? And also how we become that vessel.
Okay, let's start from that point. You remember, I think I told you last time. Yeah, I think I did. Imagine, I love this girl very much. I walk up to her and I says, listen, I want to marry you. I promise I'll do everything you want me to do, and I'll give you gifts every day. She says, that's very sweet of you, and I like you a lot and everything, but I just don't feel that way about you to marry you. So I said, what do you mean? I'll do everything you say. I said, yeah, that's very cute, but still doesn't work. What's she telling me? Doing somebody favors and do everything they want me to do reaches a very high place. But that place where a person wants to make a covenant with me to get married is much, much deeper. I can buy a girl, I can give a girl $1 million a day, but it doesn't reach unless she loves me very much. It's a deeper place, deeper, doesn't reach there. But now listen to this. Imagine I love this girl very much, and we love each other in the deepest way. The next day I give her $1 million. Where did that $1 million reach? In the same place like the former boyfriend whom she didn't love and wanted to give $1 million? The thing is, because I do have a covenant with her, we love each other so much, so every little thing I'm doing for her touches that deep place. Makes it even deeper. So the thing is, between us and God is also the same way. My covenant with God is not because I do everything God tells me to do. Okay, so it's very beautiful. I do everything God wants me to do. The thing is that I have a covenant with God. That means my reaching God is so deep. And after that, when I do something for God, touch is always in the deepest, deepest depths place. So the thing is like this. When during the week, my focus is on doing mitzvahs, learning. My focus is on doing God's will, and I'm reaching that place doing God's will. Although it's also touching a little bit this deepest depths place where the covenant is. But this is not where the focus is. On Shabbos, Igmor says, Shabbos is like the whole Torah together. Shabbos is not an individual mitzvah, an individual good deed. Shabbos is the all, the everything together. Shabbos is when it's obvious to me that where I am reaching God, where God is reaching me, is not on the level that I'm doing something like a chain reaction. I do good, God gives me back good. I do wrong, God forbid, does me wrong back. Shabbos is deeper than all this. Shabbos is like just kviva karma. Shabbos is God's light, the way God is. Okay, let's make myself clear again. The whole world is only a vessel basically for God's action light, because God created the world, God acted, God created the world. Okay, let's put it this way. Remember, I think I told you last time too. Picasso? Imagine Picasso says to me, I can invite you to one of the two occasions. Or I can show you all my paintings. Or you can watch me the way I play with my children. If I'm a shallow person, I say, I'd like to see his art. if I'm a deep person, if I want to get to know the depth of his heart, which is deeper than, because the art is only an expression of that depth that he has. When do I experience the depth? The way he's playing with his children. It's much, much deeper, right? So the way I know God on Shabbos is not what God did. During the week, I see God because God created the beautiful world. On Shabbos, it's not what God did, what God is. The deepest depth. And on Shabbos also something happens to me inside. What is shining out of me is not what I did or what I didn't do, The deepest depths of my being. Everybody knows that Shabbos is Shabbat Shalom. Or Shabbos is like the world to come, where there be peace between people. There's peace between in the house, and everybody knows that you kindle those two lights on Shabbos with Shalom Bayis. There's a whole thing in the Talmud which, if you have only, let's say, 2 pennies to buy 2 candles, are you kindling Hanukkah lights? Are you kindling Shabbos lights? So the answer is always Shabbos light, because Shabbos light is the light of peace, which is more important, because it's the first thing in the world. Why is there no peace between people, between nations? Because I don't like what you do, right? It's always doing. Imagine if people could reveal to each other the deepest depths of their heart. Forget what I did. I know I did a lot of wrong. But the deepest depth of my being, if a human being reveals to you the depth of their being, you can't help but love them. Because this is God's light inside of them. The deepest depths there is. Okay, so I began telling you before that one of the major preparations for Shabbos is going to the mikveh. And the mikveh is completely immersing myself in water. And basically, the way I am under the water, if I don't go out, I'll die, God forbid. That means, at this moment, when I come out, I receive new life, because I was in a place where I was dead, in a certain deep way. Under the water, I'm dead. I can't live here. So that means when I come out from the water, suddenly I receive life from a new place. Like nothing washes me as clean, okay, but the Torah has to be pure rainwater, untouched by human hands. Because the whole of this water has to be really heavenly water. Or a river. But it just has to be like, not mechanic water, because this is, mechanic water just lost a little bit that kind of purity. So the thing is, I was telling you that also, when I do a mitzvah, when I do a good deed, and when I'm learning, I can also learn on 2 levels. You can learn on the level of action. I do it, I'm learning, I'm doing something. Or I can do it on the level of being completely immersed in it. Sometimes somebody studies Torah and his head is working. Even my feelings are working. I'm active. I'm in action. Sometimes you just completely immerse yourself in those holy words. And if you immerse yourself in those holy words, it's a little bit like Shabbos. So the Holy Baal Shem Tov says that during the week, how can you live 7 days without Shabbos? So when you really pray, when you completely immerse yourself, and be not here praying, you are praying, even deeper than all this. It's a little bit like Shabbos. When you study Torah on this deepest depths level, being completely immersed in it, like that, I can't live without it, like the Torah gives me life in the deepest way. So this is a little bit like Shabbos. It's a very important thing, Friday, Chassidim go Shabbos morning also. It's so special,
You started to say the way of doing a favor for someone. Would you give me the depths of that again? That there was a way of doing it in the daily life, and then there was a way of doing it with the Shabbos way.
Well, you see, sometimes you talk to somebody and you're active, you say words, or beautiful words, and you turn your heart to a person also on the level of action. I do something, I turn my heart to you. And then there's sometimes you can be completely immersed in it. deeper than action. I'm just completely immersed in it. Yeah, you can stand by the holy wall and daven. You did everything right. Or you can be by the holy wall and being completely immersed in the holy wall. Like the holy wall covers you. You stop being, everything stops. There's nothing else there. And, I watch people playing with their children, talking to their children. Sometimes they talk to their children on a level of action, heartbreaking. Or sometimes they talk to their children and suddenly nothing else exists anymore. Basically, everybody knows that the Baal Shem Tov initiated and the Kabbalist that you really have to go to the mikveh before you pray. Because real praying is not action. I utter those words and I do something, or I stand in the synagogue and I shackle. Praying is to be absolutely immersed in prayer. Like nothing else exists but the word I utter, even deeper than that. You see, I always tell people, my friends, the difference even between Moses talking to us and the Messiah, should live to see his coming. When God spoke to Moses on Mount Sinai, God says to Moses, command the children of Israel, tell them to do it, tell them this, tell them that. When the Mashiach is coming, it'll be like, there's a very deep Torah in Ishbitz that beneath all this commanding, God is begging us, please do it. God is praying, please do it. And the difference between a real person and like a half person like this. If you're half a Jew, it sounds to you like God is commanding you. If you're the deepest depths, then Mamash, God is begging you, crying before you, begging you, praying. It's much deeper. And it's so deep, like imagine someone is proposing to a girl to get married, right? He says, I command you to marry me tomorrow. How does it sound? Okay, a girl likes it, mazel tov. Doesn't go this way. I'm just praying, I'm begging you, right? On the level of praying. And the destruction of the temple means that we lost that touch of praying. We still pray on the level of telling God, or action praying. But this deepest depths praying, it's like being immersed in praying. It's a little bit broken.
This type of praying, is this a oneness with the Creator? There is no separation between me and the presence? Is that what it is?
No, I didn't mean to say you stop being you, on the contrary. I'm mamish me and you're mamish you, but we're just so close, right? Sometimes if I stop being I, then we're not close. I just don't exist, That's not close. Close means I am, and you're you, but we're so close. That the Bible says, is there a nation who's so close to God? Like the children of Israel who are praying to God all the time. Praying is closeness to God, Praying between people is being close to each other.
In India, they have this teaching called Tatwa. I am that. I am that. I'm asking, is this different? Are we opening our hearts to become a vessel to receive the Holy Presence, and therefore, if we receive that presence, do we become one with the presence? I am that. There is nothing but God. My being is immersed in the totality of that light and that love. Is that what Shabbos is?
You see, like by Eastern religions, to be enlightened means that you stop to exist as an individual, more or less, you know? And like you have no feelings, you have no worries, you're out of the whole scene. For us, to be enlightened means to be completely in the scene. To be completely in the world, in the deepest depth. Not only be less sensitive, even more sensitive, you know? Mamish, to know what pain is and what joy is. Because if you're out of it, then you're just nothing, you know? You're not happy and you're not sad. You know, again, I'm not knocking into this, is their way, you know, but it just isn't my way, you know? Like, they don't have those weird, like this kind of simcha we have, you know? Mamish joy like mad, you know, the deepest depths. Because you cannot be sensitive to joy unless you're also sensitive to pain in the deepest way. And you know, when you do Pesach night, we eat mora and we eat matzah, right? Utmost joy and utmost pain. We go through the whole thing, you know? Because to be free means that I'm open to absolute pain and I'm also open to absolute joy, you know? So for us, to be close to God doesn't mean I stop to exist and I'm God. It's cute, but it isn't. Because God created me, God wants me to be me. But I'm utmost me when I'm so close to God. That means also I stop being me, the outside of me, you know. I'm throwing off all the, you know, like it's called in Chassidus Klippe, the shells. All the shells disappear, you know. The outside stuff disappears. The unimportant stuff disappears. Just the deepest depths of me. And, you know, like those big Chassidish Rebbes, when they prayed, you know, this is a little bit of a sad story, the Heilige Reb Herschel Rimenhofer was so holy and people didn't know if he's for real or not, you know? Or you know, every person who's special, there's already people who like him specially and also who hate him specially. So Reb Herschel Rimenhofer, it's a whole long story with that getting involved, and he was son of a tailor, you know, and he ran away from home because his parents died, and he just said to his mother, she learned, and Rabbi Rimenhofer, like, he became his shamasel, his bodyguard, and people say he doesn't know anything, but he did know everything. When it came to praying, he was mamish out of this world. So, at one time, there was this big oven, and he would always like put his head on the oven and just pray so hard. So people would say, you know, oh God, he's stumbling. He said, it's a fake. So sadly enough, at one time a person put some fire in the oven, you know, and became real hot. But he didn't feel anything, you know, because it was for real. And it doesn't mean he stopped being partially, you know, it was mamish, but he didn't feel his skin or it was inside stuff, you know. Okay, but it really got hot, they took him off the oven, you know, goes without saying, didn't let him burn the God forbid, you know, but it just tested him. Okay, I'll tell you a joke. Chassidim tell this joke. This man comes to the synagogue, and he says, I want you to know, when I say Hashem Echad, God is one, I'm so completely out of this world that you can pinch me with a pin, I wouldn't feel anything. Okay, you know, Christmas takes about 10 minutes to say it, or 5 minutes. Okay, the next day, he says Hashem Echad, God is one. Someone comes with a pin, puts it with a needle, and nothing happens. Hey, maybe it's real. So one other chos says, hey, let me try him, you know. Takes a needle and gives a real zetz, you know. Starts yelling, hey! Okay, after the praying is over, they said, so, you see, you're still with it, you know, you're not completely out of this world. He says, yeah, but the first time? I mean, you see, let's say, you know, sometimes, you know, when you love somebody very much, when you meet them, you stop being hungry or thirsty or tired. I mean, that kind of being out of it, you know. That doesn't mean I stop being an individual of the country, you know. I'm just so elated.
Is it that when you're in the Sabbath consciousness, you are overcome with the presence, and therefore you're closer to your real self, to the real nature of yourself, the real being?
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that?
Something like that.
But if I'm closer to the real nature of my being, is that I'm closer to the divinity? And if the divinity is, somehow the divinity is beyond, contains joy and pain, but is beyond it. The divinity does not get swallowed by pain or joy. The divinity is even bigger, is it not? If it is, and I can get closer to that divinity, which is also in my being, then is the Sabbath a vessel for that? Is that something that we do to open ourselves so that we can become closer to that reality, which is ourself? Which is I'm asking?
Yeah, why not?
Okay, well the question, in asking all of that, is that after the first few minutes of experiencing that you start to experience it. Now, how do you maintain that connection through a Sabbath? I mean, is the vision to be able to maintain that connection, not only in the Sabbath but all the time? Okay, and the Sabbath is the vessel for getting that going. How do we maintain it without getting caught up again in talking about the daily things, the gossip and the things in Israel? You know, people used to sit around on the lawn and talk about their boyfriends and their that and that. And I'm wondering what my own soul was doing was to yearn to stay within that space that started to be created. How can you help us to do that?
You know, it's always like this. Everything holy is so hard to get it and so easy to lose it. If you just try and hope, you know, there's no black and white formula, you know, you just concentrate very strong, you know, concentration. You know, in Hebrew it's called hesach hadas, that if 1 second, like, you look at something, 1 second you stop looking at it, you lost it, God forbid, you know? You know, on Shabbos we eat fish. You know why? Because fish always have their eyes open. That means Shabbos, you got to keep your eyes on Shabbos all the time. Like, you have to focus on Shabbos in the deepest way. You see, okay, it's very, very special to keep it. I don't know, you know, I wouldn't tell somebody try to keep Shabbos 24 hours. We're not, that for them, they're not on the level yet, you know. You have to be in every Shabbos you can maintain a little bit longer. It's like running, right? First you run 1 mile, then 2 miles, 3 miles. You don't run 100 miles the first day. So when you begin with Shabbos, just be so happy if you have 1 minute.
But I want to ask you, you said that before the Sabbath, if you were just waiting for the Sabbath to get out of this world because it was so miserable, that wasn't it. That the world was wonderful, all right? Now you go into the Sabbath, and there's a feeling that the world is just so much more. Yeah. It's just so much more. Okay, now you're sitting in the Sabbath and your mind starts to run around a bit and starts to think about, you know, what happened yesterday and whether the job is going to work out and that. You're not in Sabbath. The minute your mind is doing that,
You're going right back.
You're going back and forth. Now, what is our relationship to the world when we're in the Sabbath? Is it that the world, you don't say the world is illusion. God forbid, you don't say that. Well, what happens to the world then? Is it transformed? Is it the best and holiest it can be on the Sabbath? What does that mean?
You see, as the Gemara says on Shabbos is Kila Melachta Suya. Imagine if, let's assume I'm trying to get a job by Macy's, right? But my father is the director of Macy's. Do I worry about getting the job? Be taken care of. It's true, even if I'm the son of the owner of Macy, because my father wants me to be independent, I have to present myself in the office, fill out a form. But in the final say is still my father's the president of the corporation, right? On Shabbos, I know that everything I'm doing, everything which I'm still, God has the final say. On Shabbos, I don't worry. I say, God will take care of it. But on Shabbos, I'm so much aware that God is taking care of everything, so I really don't worry about anything. But again, you have to keep it up, you know, and pray to God. You should have the privilege to feel it. See, Shabbos is a gift. Sometimes God gives you a gift 1 minute, sometimes God gives you a gift 2 minutes. And basically the difference between God and a human being is like this. A human being, if someone gives me a gift, I have no right to say, give me another gift. I say, thank you so much. You don't ask for gifts. God, I can even ask for gifts all the time. And the more God gives me a gift, the more I can ask, give me more gifts. So Shabbos, I ask God all the time, please give me more Shabbos, more Shabbos, more Shabbos. And hopefully we get it.
If Shabbos is the place that is not really the action place, it's a place of stillness, is it not? In this holy book here, Your Word is Fire, it talks about it, the most deepest place of praying where even your body movement comes to a stop and there is no movement and you go really deep inside. Is that like the Sabbath? In other words, what I'm asking is most of the Sabbaths, a lot of them that I've experienced, they are active. People are talking, and even though they're not cooking and turning the lights on, they're doing a lot. Is there another Sabbath?
Okay, I'm sure those people who talk, that means maybe that moment they weren't so Shabbos-tic. So they had their Shabbos already, they will have it tomorrow morning. See, we're living in a world where we all are crying even for 1 minute Shabbos. And that 1 minute Shabbos keeps us going, even if you can't keep it up. So also special. So next Shabbos will be 2 minutes.
Are there any tales or stories or teachings or anything that help us to focus ourselves on that depth and stillness?
Even you see, even the story doesn't help. So I know one more story. It's like this one Rebbe says, soldiers, by maneuvers, you don't shoot. You just run around with your rifle, pretend. But Gewalt, when there's a war, The truth is, all those teachings don't help when the war is there, right? You just, the mamish on your own, right? Ask any soldier, after he went through basic training and all those 2 million maneuvers, Gewalt, God forbid, should never happen. When there's a war, you're mamish fighting man to man, you don't remember all the teachings, you're just fighting for your life. So the same when comes Shabbos is like fighting for your life. Try to keep Shabbos up. So you just try it. Hopefully Shabbos will mean enough to you that you should want it. And okay, but since it is Shabbos, it's not so hard to switch back. During the week it's always hard to get back to the top of the mountain. On Shabbos, even if you roll down to the lowest valley, you're only one step from the top of the mountain, so it goes faster. Yeah, like this missile service, not elevator service, but missile service. 747. But see, the most important thing is, whatever you do, don't let your mistakes drag you down. Imagine on Shabbos it was for 5 minutes, not Shabbos again, sitting I. Okay, in the meantime, you're losing Shabbos right now. Okay, so 5 minutes ago you spoke about the stock market, was wrong. Forget it. Okay, now talk about Shabbos. And let me share one more thing, During the week, basically eating is to give strength and energy to my body. Sleeping is giving energy to my soul. Because my soul cannot stand this world for more than so many hours. And it has to go back. So it's very strong in Chassidus. Sometimes you're very tired. Don't force it because your soul just has to go back for a few minutes. With the difference of Shabbos, on Shabbos is, even the food is for my soul, and the sleeping is for my body. That means on Shabbos even somehow my body goes up to that place in heaven where my soul comes from. So everybody knows, I know to myself, if like the sleep of Shabbos, just something else. Gives you so much energy, so much life. And it's very, very, very special. And anyway, good Shabbos, sleep well on Shabbos.
What I would like to know about is the Shekhinah. The Shekhinah. If that is the mother, is that the divine mother that other religions talk about? Is it the feminine? These words are intellectual, and I don't think it is intellectual. I'd like to know how I can connect myself to the essence of the Shekhinah, because I want to know.
You see, it's true. There is like there's like father and mother also in mysticism, which is father is the light, which is transcending the world, and the mother is the light. The way the Shekhinah is basically God's light within vessels. You see, the specialness of a woman is that she can bring down a soul into the world. The man can only help, but really bringing God's light into the world, this is a specialty of the woman. So Shekhinah means mamish bringing God's light into the world. Like, for instance, there's food in the world, and the woman has the God-given power to prepare it, mamish to put it in your stomach, right? This is what the woman can do. It's basically given to the woman, I don't really believe in men cooking. I mean, they can cook, it's sweet and cute, but the woman has a certain thing. It's a gift from God that the woman knows how to prepare the food to become a vessel to give your life. It's like bringing a child into the world. So the Shekhinah is God's light, the way it is absolutely coming into the world. And so it's you need both. You need God's light the way it's transcending the world, and you need God's light the way it's in the world. You always need both. Children need father and mother. And see what it is like. Sadly enough, we're living in a world like where everybody wants to be something else. Men want to be women, and women want to be men. Children want to be adults, and Catholics want to be Jews, and Jews want to be Protestants. Everything is so crazy in our world because on one hand it's beautiful because everybody knows I'm not in the right place, so they're looking for their place. They don't know where it is. They think I look for another place. But what they have to do is make where you are. God says to Moshe, take off the shoes from where you're standing. Don't go to another place. Take off your shoes. And in Chassidus is very strong. You know what a shoe is? It doesn't do anything for my foot, but it doesn't let my foot touch the ground. Right? It's like a little in-between, right? Take the in-between off. And regel in Hebrew means foot, but also means habits. You know what habits are doing to us? You're dead, right? Everything is a habit. Religion is a habit, God is a habit, marriage is a habit. And then there's two things which keep you away. Like the little in-between, like my little shoe, and all my habits. This is take off your shoes from your habits, When Abraham saw those three pagans, when he was sitting outside his tent, he said to them, wash your feet. Or in Chassidus, wash off your habits. Get rid of it. Don't do things out of habit.
Habit. When you're performing a Sabbath, or for that matter, any spiritual discipline where you're using rituals, washing, yes. And so I'd like to ask you something about that. Number one, how to keep it more than a habit. What does it mean for it to be more than a habit? And also whether you can become enslaved by rituals and lose the Sabbath. Is the Sabbath in the essence of the ritual?
Listen, you can even become a slave to God. You can make God into a pagan, and to an idol. It says in Chassidus, when God says don't make idols, naturally God didn't mean you take a piece of wood and bow down to it. But God is begging us, don't make me into an idol, You can serve God like the way I'm worshipping an idol. There's a very unbelievable passage that says, don't do this to God. And the Lublina says, what's a habit? I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to do this. It's all I have it written down in a book, first step, second step. Don't do this to God. It's true, I have to do this, but it has to be deeper than all this, I have to serve God like all the Rebbes said. I'll tell you something very beautiful. Rav Nachman says, anything you do for the second time is already dead, right? It has to be for the first time. So Rav Nosson writes, when my holy master Rav Nachman left this world, and Rav Nachman had TB, he was spitting blood all his life, and he was just so sick. He was absolutely at the end. So he says, in the very last second of his life, he summoned all his strength, and he said, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, God is one. And he says, I swear to you, he said it like he's saying it for the first time. He says, can you imagine what a way to leave this world by saying Shema Yisrael for the first time? So this is the whole thing, Only we get old. God is not old, Serving God has to be like. Remember, Rav Nachman was always yelling, "It's forbidden to be old." It's forbidden to be old. So especially about children, as they do everything for the first time, they really do it, But when you tell children a beautiful story, they want to hear it again. How come when I hear a good story, I don't ever want to hear it again? Because I'm old. I don't know the secret, but I hear doing something the second time for the first time. And I know the secret, if you do it the third time, this is really the first time. The more I do it, the more I get to the taste that this is the first time I'm doing it. Now I really want to do it. And that's basically the secret of life. You see, everything becomes old birth. Have you ever watched teachers going into a classroom? They're teaching there for 30 years. It's old stuff. It's nothing, right? And this is the end of the world. And the whole secret of life is, do you know why, and I mean, I don't know you, me, why do we get up when we're still tired? Because we're getting up every morning. Imagine I would get up for the first time, blow my mind. Imagine I'm sleeping, my soul leaves my body and comes back, and I'm healthy and I'm well, and I can jump out of bed. I can't believe it, right? I'd be well.
Something you were talking about sunrise, and the fact that you're giving a wedding at sunrise. Mm-hmm. How can we get connected to whatever it is that's so holy and that rising, that waking? And if we could have that teaching, wouldn't that help us in the Sabbath?
I don't know, so you have to wait till...
About ruach. Okay, it means the holy breath. Is that right? And is that connected to the Shekhinah? And is that what we connect to when we're in the Sabbath? In other words, what place does it have in the Sabbath, or does it?
I mean, everything has, you see, God has two names, Yud-Ke, Vov-Ke, and Elokim. One is the name of God transcending the world, and Elokim is the way God is in the world. It says, Bereshis Bo Elokim, God created the world, but there's the name of God, Elokim, the way God is in the world, like the Shekhinah. So there's basically a little controversy between the Kabbalists, since the person is always to focus on God's names. So there's a controversy, which name is when you inhale and which name you focus when you exhale. Like the most say, when I inhale, I'm bringing God's light into vessels. So it's Shem Elokim. When I exhale, then on the contrary, I'm connecting myself to God's infinite name. Or maybe the other way around. I'm inhaling because I want to experience God's transcending light getting into me. When I exhale means I'm getting ready, I'm putting it back into the world, my breath. Okay, that's very deep controversy. But basically, you see, on Shabbos, the name of God which we're focusing on, which is supposed to have in front of your eyes, is Shem Yud-Ke Vov-Ke, only God's transcending name, not because on Shabbos everything is beyond vessels. You see, like during the week, the vessels are. I mean, God created everything, but still, they are vessels, and they are vessels for God's light. On Shabbos, in a certain very deep way, the light and the vessel are so much one that you cannot say this is vessel and this is light. So just everything is beyond. You see, basically also, why do I work? Because I make a vessel for God's light, God's blessing. Why do I work for a living? I have a little store, I sell my herring, and my selling the herring is a vessel for God's blessing, so the matzah or the money should flow into my pockets, right? I'm making a little vessel. On Shabbos I'm not working, because on Shabbos, even the vessels are not for me to make. Shabbos, God gives me light in the vessels.
In the vessels?
And the vessels. The Holy Rishna said something like this. By the German Kaiser, it was a thing that, it says something very deep. If you send flowers to an ordinary girl, you send her the flowers, and she has to have her own vase. Right? When you send flowers to the Queen of Germany, to the Kaiserin, you don't send flowers, because it'll be a terrible mistake. You have to send flowers and a vase. Otherwise it's not accepted. So on Shabbos, God treats us like the Queen of Germany. So God gives us flowers, but with the vase, everything's ready with the vessels. So on Shabbos, means on Shabbos you cannot even say it's the Shechina, or you can't even say it's God's Spirit. It's deeper than all this, If there were such things, sure there were such things deep. But you know what? The crazy thing is, I wish he would ask me all this on Shabbos, right? That's the saddest thing, but on Shabbos you can't record it.